Hi everybody, welcome to the Refined Peasants podcast, and we've got a pretty special thing for y'all that we're going to do. It took some software ingenuity,
Boom.
but we are going to live cover the State of the Union. You're going to see our live reactions. This is kind of awesome.
Yeah. So you get none of us have seen the State of the Union except Nick, but Nick's forgetful.
I'm stupid.
So we're gonna kind of live react. I know it's about a week late, but
we wanted to do this live feed it as it was doing it, but it was on a Tuesday. We all had stuff to do, so it's Biden's fault.
Yeah. But if by chance you also haven't seen the State of the Union, come watch it with us, and we'll give you our live input on see how Biden did.
Come along
Absolutely.
for the ride.
All right, so here we go.
Thank you all very, very much. Thank you.
Yep. Ukrainian flags.
Thank you so much. Madam Speaker, Madam Vice President, and our First Lady and Second Gentleman,
First time that's ever been
members
said.
of Congress and the Cabinet, Justice of the Supreme Court, my fellow Americans. Last year, COVID-19 kept us apart.
Did it
This
though?
year, we're finally together
Yes.
again.
No, it didn't.
Tonight,
No one's wearing masks in the.
Oh yeah, because they lifted the mask mandates literally the day
Tonight,
before his
we
State of the
meet
Union.
as Democrats, Republicans, and Independents, but most importantly, as Americans, with the duty to one another, to America, to the American people, to the Constitution, and an unwavering resolve that freedom will always triumph over tyranny. Thank you.
Okay.
Get prepared for this a lot.
Ooh,
There's a lot of clapping, and I hate it.
that's a decent amount on both sides, don't you think?
I can't really see. Tilt the computer screen up. Yeah.
6 days ago, Russia's Vladimir Putin sought
Better?
to shake the very foundations of the free world, thinking
Facts.
he could make it bend to his menacing ways.
Facts.
But he badly miscalculated.
Facts.
Thought he could roll into Ukraine and the world would roll over. Instead, he met with a wall of strength he never anticipated or imagined. He met the Ukrainian people.
And pretty good. A lot of flag waving, a lot of rally around the flag right now.
Yeah, it's a little weird to see
President.
another country's flag.
Oh,
but-
that's Republicans.
Yeah.
Every Ukrainian, their fearlessness, their courage, their determination literally inspires the world. Groups of citizens blocking tanks with their bodies. Everyone from students to retirees to teachers turned soldiers defending their homeland. And in this struggle, President Zelensky said in his speech to the European Parliament, "Light will win over darkness." The Ukrainian ambassador to the United States is here tonight, sitting with the First Lady. Let each of us, if you're able to stand and send an unmistakable signal to the world of Ukraine. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Someone clapping right next to the boom
Yeah,
mic.
yeah.
You know, like
She's bright, she's strong, and she's resolved.
That looked pretty uncomfortable for that Ukrainian lady. We don't need hugs, we need arms.
We're delayed
Yes.
again.
just nobody
We,
move
the
as
United
much.
States of America, stand
We're
with the
delayed.
Ukrainian people.
No.
Throughout our history, we've learned this lesson. When dictators do not pay a price for their aggression, they cause more chaos.
100%
They
facts.
keep moving. The cost, the threats to America and America to the world keeps rising. That's why the NATO alliance was created, to secure peace and stability in Europe after World War II. The United States is a member, along with 29 other nations. It matters. American diplomacy matters. American resolve matters. Putin's latest attack on Ukraine was premeditated and totally unprovoked. He rejected repeated efforts at diplomacy. He thought the West and NATO wouldn't respond. He thought he could divide us at home, in this chamber, in this nation. He thought he could divide us in Europe as well. But Putin was wrong. We are ready. We are united, and that's what we did. We stayed united. We prepared extensively and carefully. We spent months building coalitions of other freedom-loving nations in Europe and the Americas, from America to the Asian and African continents, to confront Putin.
I didn't know
Like
Africa
many,
was
we
in on
spent
this too.
Countless hours
UN.
unifying your European allies. We shared with the world in advance what we knew Putin was planning.
Yeah, the Chinese took
Precisely
it
how
right
he
to
tried
him.
falsify and justify his aggression.
Chinese took American
Countered
intelligence
Russia's
that
lies
Biden
with
shared with
truth.
them and fed it right to the Russians.
And now,
I thought he announced
Now
it
he's
publicly.
Also,
free world
maybe.
is holding him accountable,
Are you sure?
along with 27 members of the European Union, including France, Germany, Italy, as well as countries like the United Kingdom, Canada, Japan, Korea, Australia, New Zealand, and many others, even Switzerland, are inflicting pain on Russia and supporting the people of Ukraine. Putin is now isolated from the world more than he has ever been. Together,
Yeah. Was 8% inflation in a week, Wyatt?
together,
Yeah.
Together, along with our allies, we are right now enforcing powerful economic sanctions. We're cutting off Russia's largest banks in the international financial system, preventing Russia's central bank from defending the Russian ruble, making Putin's $630 billion war fund worthless. We're choking Russia's access. We're choking Russia's access to technology that will sap its economic strength and weaken its military for years to come. Tonight, I say to the Russian oligarchs and the corrupt leaders who built billions of dollars off this violent regime, no more. The United States, I mean it.
Oh, I mean it.
He definitely is an old guy talking, though,
The
isn't
United
he?
States Department of Justice is assembling a dedicated task force to go after the crimes of the Russian oligarchs. We're joining with European allies to find and seize their yachts, their luxury apartments, their private jets.
Oh, I saw that, actually. Yeah, I
We're
guess they
coming
started
for
seizing
you,
oligarch
ill-begotten
property.
Gains.
No,
Tonight,
yeah, I think you mentioned that the
I'm
other day.
Nice.
announcing that we will join our allies in closing off American airspace to all Russian flights, further isolating Russia and adding additional squeeze on their economy.
Oh.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think
He
a
has
lot of
no
Americans
idea
were going to
what's
travel to Russia right now, but
The ruble has already lost 30% of its value. The Russian stock market has lost 40% of its value, and trading remains suspended. The Russian economy is reeling, and Putin alone is the one to blame. Together with our allies, we're providing support to the Ukrainians in their fight for freedom. Military assistance, economic assistance, humanitarian assistance. We're giving more than $1 billion of direct assistance to Ukraine, and will continue to aid the Ukrainian people as they defend their country and help ease their suffering.
I'd like to see a breakdown of that $1 billion, but that's good.
Don't be nitpicky.
No, I just want to see how much is like military funds and how much is
Humanitarian.
humanitarian.
Well,
Like,
to be
like
clear,
both are needed.
It's
I'm
probably
just-
going to be turned into
Our
military
forces are
funds,
not-
to be honest.
More
Engaged.
javelin.
You sent
Will
bread,
not
we
engage in
make
the conflict with
bread
Russian
bombs.
forces in Ukraine.
Bread bombs. They're
Our
making
forces
napalm.
not going to Europe to fight Ukraine, but to defend our NATO allies in the event that Putin decides to keep moving west. For that purpose,
Yeah.
we've mobilized American ground forces, air squadrons, ship deployments to protect NATO countries including Poland, Romania, Latvia, Lithuania, and Estonia. And as I've made crystal clear, the United States and our allies will defend every inch of territory that is NATO territory with the full force of our collective power. Every single inch.
That's good. I did see we were mobilizing like 60,000 troops in Europe to put on the
And we're
borders.
clear-eyed. Ukrainians are fighting back with pure courage. But the next few days, weeks, and months will be hard on them. Putin has unleashed violence and chaos. But while he may make gains on the battlefield, he'll pay a continuing high price over the long run. And a pound of Ukrainian people, proud people, pound for pound, ready to fight with every inch of energy they have, they've known 30 years of independence, have repeatedly shown that they will not tolerate anyone who tries to take their country backwards. To all Americans, I'll be honest with you, as I always promised I would be. A Russian dictator invading a foreign country has cost around the world. And I'm taking robust action to make sure the pain of our sanctions is targeted at the Russian economy, and that we use every tool at our disposal to protect American businesses and consumers. Tonight, I can announce the United States has worked with 30 other countries to release 60 million barrels of oil from reserves around the world. America will lead that effort,
I mean, that's nice, but that's not nearly
releasing
enough.
30 million barrels of our own strategic petroleum reserve. And we stand ready to do more if necessary, united with our allies. These steps will help blunt gas prices here at home, but I know news about what's happening can seem alarming to all Americans. But I want you to know, we're going to be okay. We're going to be okay. When the history of this era is written, Putin's war in Ukraine will have left Russia weaker and the rest of the world stronger. Well,
I mean, Russia weaker for sure, right?
while it shouldn't,
Economically.
Yeah. I don't know about the rest of the world stronger, but
while it shouldn't have taken, well, it shouldn't have taken something so terrible for people around the world to see what's at stake. Now everyone sees it clearly. We see the unity among leaders of nations, a more unified Europe, a more unified West. We see unity among the people who are gathering in cities and large crowds around the world, even in Russia, to demonstrate their support for the people of Ukraine. The battle between democracy and autocracies. Democracies are rising to the moment, and the world is clearly choosing the side of peace and security. This is the real test.
no, the West
It's
is
gonna
clearly
take time.
choosing that side.
So let us continue to draw inspiration from the iron will of the Ukrainian people. To our fellow Ukrainian Americans, who forged a deep bond that connects our two nations, we stand with you. We stand with you. Putin may circle Kyiv with tanks, but he'll never gain the hearts and souls of the Iranian people. He'll never extinguish their love
That was
of
a
freedom,
gaffe.
and he will
What'd he say?
never weaken the resolve.
Uranian?
Or Iranian.
He meant Ukrainian.
Well, he's had a couple. Honestly, the gaffes are kind of baked into the cake at this point. Like, so.
We meet tonight in an America that has lived through two of the hardest years this nation has ever faced. The pandemic has been punishing, and so many families are living paycheck to paycheck, struggling to keep up with the rising cost of food, gas, housing, and so much more. I understand, like many of you did. My dad had to leave his home in Scranton, Pennsylvania to find work. So like many of you, I grew up in a family when the price of food went up, it was felt throughout the family. It had an impact. That's one of the first things I did as president, was fight to pass the American Rescue Plan. Because people were hurting. We needed to act, and we did. Few pieces of legislation have done more at a critical moment in our history to lift us out of a crisis.
10% inflation.
Vaccinate the nation and combat COVID-19.
Not 30% like Russia.
We're not at 10% inflation. To say so is a lie.
It helped put food on
Ha.
the table.
That's fair.
Remember those long
I know.
lines
10%
in
inflation
cars
by the
waiting
end of
for
the-
hours just to get a
by
box of
July.
food.
They thought we were going to have 10% this year.
It cut the cost of health care insurance. And as my dad used to say, it gave the people just a little bit of breathing room. Unlike the $2 trillion tax cut passed in the previous administration that benefited the top 1% of Americans, the American Rescue Plan helped working people and left no one behind.
Left a lot of people behind.
Folks, and it worked. It worked.
A lot of
It
Republicans
worked.
still.
We created
See?
jobs, lots of jobs. In fact, our economy created over 6.5 million new jobs just last year. More jobs in 1 year than ever before in the history of the United
Yeah,
States
so
of
it
America.
gets into like created versus they just
Economy
came
grew at a
back
rate of
because
5.7
COVID was
last year,
ending.
the strongest growth rate in 40 years. The first
Still
step
the
in
most
making
ever,
fundamental
by,
changes
like,
in our economy
Yeah,
triple.
but it was on a
hasn't worked for
rebound.
working people in this nation
Like,
for
So
too
I
long.
agree
artificial
with you there.
shutdown,
The past 40
but-
years,
rebound.
we were told the tax break for those at the top and benefits would trickle down and everyone would benefit.
Average income by
He,
American.
he's got to get credit for at least getting the
Lower wages,
rebound.
bigger deficits,
Yeah.
and a widening gap between
Average
the
average
top
income by
and
went up by
everyone else
$5,000 under Trump
in nearly a century.
for average Americans.
Look,
Is that
Vice
true?
President Harris and I ran for
Over
office,
4 years or
and I
1 year or
realized
what?
we had
Over 4 years.
fundamental disagreements on this.
I don't know how that can be
Ran
true
for office with a
because
new
of
economic
COVID
vision
and.
for America. Invest in America. Educate Americans. Grow the workforce. Build the economy from the bottom up and the middle out, not from the top down. Because we know. Because we know. Because we know when the middle class grows, the poor go way up and the wealthy do very well.
I'd be interested to see
America
middle class
used to have the
growth
best
statistics
roads, bridges, and airports on Earth.
for the first 2
And
years.
now
Down
our infrastructure is ranked
for like
13th
the past
in the world.
40 years.
We won't be able to compete for the jobs of the 21st century if we don't fix it. That's why it was so important to pass the bipartisan infrastructure law. And I thank my Republican friends who joined to invest, rebuild America.
It's the same Republicans I've noticed.
in history.
Same 10, 12.
It was a bipartisan effort, and I want to thank the members of both parties who worked to make it happen.
That's
We're
good.
done talking about infrastructure weeks. We're now talking about an infrastructure decade. And look,
That's how long it's going to take for them to get I-40
trying to,
done.
Build
trying
new
to
highways.
transform America to put us on a path to win the economic competition of the 21st
No,
century.
infrastructure was not going to
Faced
do
with the
that,
rest of
sir.
the world, particularly China.
For
That's
sure
why
not
Xi
that.
Jinping, it's never been a good bet to bet against the American people. We'll create good jobs for millions of Americans, modernizing roads, airports, ports, waterways, all across America. And we'll do it to withstand the devastating effects of climate change and promote environmental justice. We'll build a national network of 500,000 electric vehicle charging stations. Begin to replace the poisonous lead pipes so every child, every American has clean water to drink at home and at school.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
I mean, the idea that schools still have lead pipes is terrible. Like,
Provide affordable, high-speed internet for every
Just be glad
American.
it passed.
Rural, suburban,
Because it was,
urban,
I mean, just
and
that
tribal
close
communities.
to probably not.
4,000 projects have already been announced. Many of you have announced them in your districts.
oh, the
Tonight, I'm
internet,
announcing
too,
that
is
this
probably
year,
good.
Mm-hmm.
we will start fixing over 65,000 miles of highway and 1,500 bridges in disrepair.
all in New
Folks,
York.
Ah,
when
That's
we
a lot more
use
Republicans.
taxpayers' dollars to rebuild America, we're going to do it by buying American. Buy American products.
Oh, I remember seeing this clip.
Support American jobs. The federal government spends about $600 billion a year to keep this country safe and secure. There's been a law on the books for almost a century to make sure taxpayers' dollars support American jobs and businesses. Every administration, Democrat or Republican, says they'll do it, but we're actually doing it. We'll buy America to make sure everything from the deck of an aircraft carrier to the steel on highway guardrails is made in America from beginning to end. All of it. All of it.
I mean, so that's good, but it's going to come with consequences, mostly expense. Like, made in America products are much more
But
expensive.
folks,
That's fine.
I'm
to compete for the jobs of the future, we also need a level playing field with China.
Are
and
we going
other
to get rid of
competitors.
Chinese spies?
That's why it's so important to pass the Bipartisan
No.
Innovation Act sitting in Congress that will make record investments in emerging technologies and American manufacturing. We used to invest almost 2% of our GDP in research and development. We don't now. Can't. China is. Let me give you one example why it's so important to pass. If you travel 20 miles east of Columbus, Ohio, you'll find 1,000 empty acres of land. It won't look like much, but if you stop and look closely, you'll see a field of dreams. The ground on which America's future will be built.
We're gonna build a baseball field, guys.
That's where Intel, the American
Kevin
company that's up from
Costner?
Silicon Valley, is going to build a $20 billion semiconductor megasite. Up to 8 state-of-the-art factories in one place. 10,000 new jobs. And in those factories, the average job about
8 factories is only 10,000 new jobs.
$135,000 a year. Some of the most sophisticated manufacturing in the world to make computer chips
In a state
size
where
of
that kind of means
fingertip.
something.
That power the world in everyday lives. From smartphones, technology, the internet.
I mean, so building
technology that's yet to be
superconductor
invented.
manufacturing plants in America is a good idea.
That's just the beginning.
Like,
Intel
I mean-
CEO Pat Gelsinger was here tonight. I don't know where Pat is. Pat, there you go. Pat, stand up.
I mean, obviously 8's not enough, but it's a good idea. And you're still gonna have a problem with the raw resources. But
Pat came to see me and he told me they're ready to increase their investment from 20 billion to 100 billion. That would be the biggest investment in manufacturing in American history. And all they're waiting for is for you to
Took
pass
20
this bill. So let's not
that'd be
wait any
40
longer.
manufacturing
Send it
plants
to my
if the
desk,
cost
I'll
is
sign it.
equivalent.
And we'll really take off in a big way.
50,000 jobs.
Folks, Intel is not alone. There's something happening in America. Just look around and you'll see an amazing story. The rebirth of pride that comes from stamping products made in America. The revitalization of American manufacturing. Companies are choosing to build new factories here when just a few years ago they would have gone overseas. That's what's happening. Ford is investing $11 billion in electric vehicles, creating 11,000 jobs across the country.
It's because they
GM
to
is
deal
making
with
the
your
largest
administration.
investment in history. $7 billion to build electric vehicles, creating 4,000 jobs in Michigan. All told, 369,000 new manufacturing jobs were created in America last year alone.
That is huge.
Folks, powered by people I've met like JoJo Burgess from generations of union steelworkers in Pittsburgh, who's here tonight. Where are you, JoJo? There you go. Thanks, buddy.
Surely his name's not really
As
JoJo,
Ohio-
right?
Either way, I don't feel like you should call a grown
Ohio Senator
adult
Sherrod
JoJo.
Brown
JoJo, yeah, it seems like an 80-year-old man. Is that a child?
Sherrod
No,
Brown
guy in
says
blue
it's
shirt.
time to
Oh, okay.
bury the label Rust Belt. It's time to see what used to be called the Rust Belt become the home of a significant resurgence of manufacturing.
That was rough.
Yeah,
that was
all
rough.
the bright spots in our economy.
He wanted to say the steel belt, but he
Record
just
job
couldn't get
growth,
it out.
Higher wages, too many families
Take the
are
rust
struggling
off
to
the
keep
Rust
up with
Belt.
the bills. Inflation is robbing them of gains they thought otherwise they would be able to feel.
Facts.
I get it. That's why my top priority is getting prices under control. Look, our economy roared back faster than almost anyone predicted. The pandemic meant that
Everyone
businesses
saw this coming.
had a hard
It's been
time
slower
hiring
than
enough people
predicted
because of the
by
pandemic
almost every
to keep up
economist.
production in their
I don't think
factories.
that's true.
Mm-hmm.
So you didn't
I
have
That's
don't
why
think
they've
that's
undermet
true.
on jobs reports like every month
Beams
since he
that
took
went into
office.
buildings because they were out.
No, they just he undermet the first 3 months. Ever since then, he's done nothing but hit him. I thought.
No, it's been
Factories
under.
closed.
I think the last
When that
month
happens,
he
takes
actually met
longer
it.
to make goods and get
I
them
don't
to
think
I mean,
so.
fact check me on it, but I'm pretty
Prices
sure
go
that
up.
he's undermet on every
Cars
jobs
last
report
year.
since he took office.
1/3 of all the inflation was because of automobile sales. There weren't enough semiconductors to make all the cars that people wanted to buy. And guess what? Prices of automobiles went way up, especially used vehicles as well. And so we have a choice. One way to fight inflation is to drive down wages and make Americans poorer. I think I have a better idea to fight inflation. Lower your costs, not your wages.
Wages are a cost, though.
But he's saying if we can't buy the superconductors, we could, if we manufacture them here.
You can't manufacture them here cheaper than you manufacture in China.
That means
No
You
way.
could during
more
COVID.
cars and semiconductors in America.
Like with the supply chain issues, I think
More
he's making a decent
infrastructure and
point.
Innovation in America. More goods moving faster and cheaper in America. More jobs where you can earn a good living in America. Instead of relying on foreign supply chains, let's make it in America.
Again.
Look, economists,
Like I'm all pro make more shit in America and make us more self-reliant. It's just people are gonna have to pay more for that stuff.
But it might downplay the pressure of inflation.
economists call
Uh,
this increasing
especially in the long term.
capacity of our economy. I call it building a better America.
oh, COVID,
My plan
masks.
to fight inflation will lower your cost and lower the deficit. 17 Nobel laureates in economics said my plan will ease long-term inflationary pressures. Top business leaders, and I believe most Americans support the plan. Here's the plan. First, cut the cost of prescription drugs. We pay more for the same drug produced by the same company in America than any other country in the world. Just look at insulin. 1 in 10 Americans has diabetes.
You know, like 3 years ago, they
Virginia,
weren't
I met a
paying as much for
13-year-old
insulin.
Boy, the handsome young man standing up there. Joshua
Temporary.
Davis.
Give us something
He and his
codified
dad
into
both
law.
had type
Maybe
1
leave the
diabetes,
temporary until you get something codified
which
into law,
means
though.
they need insulin every single day.
Instead of, axing it, making people pay more until it gets not passed.
Instead of cost, the pharmaceutical
Well, ultimately, if it doesn't pass, whose fault is that?
charge families
the same
like
people
Joshua
whose fault
and
it
his
didn't
dad
pass
30
then.
times that amount. I
There's
spoke
a
to
reason
Joshua's
Trump had to
mom.
EO it.
Still
Imagine what it's
done.
like to look at your
Just
child
saying.
You
who
hate
needs
EOs.
insulin to stay healthy and have no idea how in God's name you're going to be able to pay for it. What it does to your family, but what it does to your dignity, your ability to look your child in the eye, to be the parent you expect yourself to be. I really mean to think about that. That's what I think about. You know, yesterday, Joshua's here tonight, but yesterday was his birthday. Happy birthday, buddy, by the way. For Joshua
Is that his kid?
Different game.
and 200,000 other young people with type 1 diabetes, let's cap the cost of insulin at $35 a month. So everyone can afford it. And drug companies will do very, very well, their profit margin. While we're at it, I know we have great disagreements on this floor of this. Let's let Medicare negotiate the price of prescription drugs.
That one probably did not get as many claps on the Republican side.
They already
Like a couple.
set the price for VA drugs. Look, American
Yeah, look how well that
Rescue
works,
Plan
though.
is something families with Affordable Care Act
They don't have the bargaining
to save
power.
them $2,400 a year on their health agreements. Let's close the coverage gap and make these savings permanent. And second, let's cut energy costs for families. An average of $500 a year by combating climate change. Let's provide an investment tax credits to weatherize your home and your business, to be energy efficient and get a tax credit for it. Double America's clean energy production in solar, wind, and so much more. Lower the price of electric vehicles, saving another $80 a month that you're not going to have to pay at the pump.
Well, it's more than $80 a month. That's for
Third.
damn sure.
The third thing we can do to change the standard of living for hardworking folks is cut the cost of child care. Cut the cost of child care.
Please, God, mention the tax credit.
Folks, if you live in a major city in America, you pay up to $14,000 a year for child care per child. I was a single dad for 5 years, raising 2 kids. I had a lot of help, though. I had a mom, a dad, a brother, and a sister that really helped. But middle class and working folks shouldn't have to pay more than 7% of their income to care for the young children. My plan would cut the cost of child care in half for most families and help parents, including millions of women who left the workforce during the pandemic because they couldn't afford child care, to be able to get back to work, generating economic growth. But my plan doesn't stop there. It also includes home and long-term care, more affordable housing, pre-K for 3 and 4-year-olds. All these will lower costs to families. And under my plan, nobody, let me say this again, nobody earning less than $400,000 a year will pay an additional penny in new taxes. Not a single penny.
I just don't believe
I
that.
may be wrong, but my guess is that we took a secret ballot in this floor, that we'd all agree that the present tax system ain't fair. We have to fix it. I'm not looking to punish anybody. But let's make corporations and wealthy Americans start paying their fair share. Look, last year...
Willing to bet that was also a partisan clap.
Last year...
Yeah.
Yeah. It shouldn't be, but it
Like
definitely is.
Chris Coons and Tom Carper and my distinguished congresswoman, we come from the land of corporate America. There are more corporations incorporated in America than every other state in America combined. And I still won 36 years in a row. The point is, even they understand they should pay just a fair share. Last year, 55 of the Fortune 500 companies earned $40 billion in profit and paid zero in federal taxes. Now look, it's not fair. That's why I proposed the 15% minimum tax rate for corporations. We've got, and that's why in the G7 and other meetings overseas, we're able to put together, I was able to be somewhat helpful, 130 countries agree on...
I mean, you're going to have to eliminate tax credits for
So
corporations.
companies can't get out of paying their taxes at home by shipping jobs and factories overseas. It'll raise billions of dollars. That's why I propose closing loopholes for the very wealthy who pay a lower tax rate than a teacher and a firefighter. So that's my plan.
By
We'll get
donating
more detail
art
later.
stuffs.
We're
Art
gonna grow,
stuffs.
we will grow
Yeah.
the economy.
Which
Lower
we'll
the
find out
cost
on
of
our
living.
next episode.
So what are we waiting for? Let's get this done. We all know we've got to make changes. Folks, and while you're at it, confirm my nominees for the Federal Reserve, which plays a critical role in fighting inflation. My plan will not only lower costs and give families a fair shot, it will lower the deficit. The previous administration not only ballooned the deficit with those tax cuts for the very wealthy and corporations, it undermined the watchdogs, the job of those to keep pandemic relief funds being wasted. Remember we had those debates about whether or not those watchdogs should be able to see every day how much money was being spent, where was it going to the right place? But in my administration, the watchdogs are back. And we're going to go after the criminals who stole billions of relief money meant for small business and millions of Americans.
And they
Tonight,
sure
I'm
as fuck
announcing
did.
That the
Yeah.
Justice Department will soon name
Because
a chief prosecutor
Well, I was
for
thinking that
pandemic fraud.
he actually named the chief justice for the thing. He's already brought 2 companies to court over this.
Well, there's something like $60 billion
Gone.
I think we all agree.
was
Thank you.
fraudulently.
By the end
Yeah.
of this year, the deficit will be down to less than half of what it was before I took office.
I'll believe it when I see
The
it.
only president ever to cut the deficit by more than $1 trillion in a single year.
I think that's a little out of context
Lowering
there,
your
Joe.
cost also meant
Well, there was a
demanding
lot of
more
COVID
competition.
spending that blew the deficit
I'm a
out.
capitalist.
Yeah, I think the
Capitalism
deficit in
without competition
2020
is not
was something like
capitalism.
almost 4 trillion.
Capitalism without
And
competition
then
is
his was only like
exploitation.
1.9. It might be
Drives up
2.2. I can't remember
profits.
which number it was.
Corporations have to compete. Their profits go up and your prices go up when they don't have to compete. Small businesses and family farmers and ranchers, I need not tell some of my Republican friends from those states. Guess what? You got 4 basic meat packing facilities. That's it. You play with them or you don't get to play at all. And you pay a hell of a lot more.
See, I've heard the argument that, well, there's 4, then it's not a monopoly, and I'm like, oh, shut
See
the
what's
fuck
happening
up.
with ocean carriers.
That's like all the
moving goods in and out of America.
4 people get in a room. Hey,
During
this
this
is how much we
pandemic.
charge. Okay.
Half a dozen
Like-
less.
As the
foreign-owned
effect of a
companies
monopoly.
raised prices by as much as 1,000% and made record profits. Tonight, I'm announcing a crackdown on those companies overcharging American businesses and consumers. Folks,
It's a dangerous game.
What's that?
Dictating how much a product or service is worth.
as Wall Street firms take over more nursing homes, quality in those homes has gone down, and costs have
What?
gone up.
Wall Street doesn't care about old people?
That ends on my watch. Medicare is going to set higher standards for nursing homes and make sure loved ones get the care they deserve and that they inspect and they will look at closely.
It's almost
We're
like
also
you
going to
should
cut
have.
costs to keep the economy going strong and giving workers a fair shot. Provide more training and apprenticeships, hire them based on skills, not just their degrees. Let's pass the Paycheck Fairness Act and paid leave. Raise the minimum wage to $15 an hour and extend the child tax credit so no one has to raise a family in poverty. Let's increase Pell Grants, increase our historic support for HBCUs, and invest in what Jill, our First Lady who teaches full-time, calls America's best kept secret, community colleges. Look, let's pass the PRO Act. When a majority of workers want to form a union, they shouldn't be able to be stopped.
I haven't heard anything about
We
these
invest in
bills.
our workers and we build an economy from the bottom up and the middle out together. We can do something we haven't done in a long time. Build a better America. For more than 2 years, COVID has impacted every decision in our lives and the life of this nation. And I know you're tired, frustrated.
You can shake your head, but it so has.
That
It
doesn't
super
count.
has not.
Close to a million
You don't have to admit it.
people sit at a
Facts
dining
don't
room
care
table
about
in
your
the kitchen
feelings.
table.
I didn't for me, at least.
Because they lost somebody. But I also know this. Because of the progress we've made, because of your resilience and the tools that we have been provided by this Congress, tonight I can say we're moving forward safely back to a more normal routines. We've reached a new moment in the fight against COVID-19.
Yeah, it's
Where
over.
severe cases are down to a level not seen since July of last year. Just a few days ago, the Center for Disease Control and Prevention issued a new mask guidelines.
Well, that's
Under the new
convenient.
guidelines, most Americans and most of the country can now go mask-free.
Like we have been.
And based on projections, more of the country will reach a point across the next couple of weeks. Thanks to the progress we've made in the past year, COVID-19 no longer need control our lives. I know some are talking about living with COVID-19. But tonight, I say that we never will just accept living with COVID-19. We'll continue to combat the virus as we do other diseases. And because this virus mutates and spreads, we have to stay on guard. Here are 4 common sense steps as we move forward safely, in my view. First, stay protected with vaccines and treatments. We know how incredibly effective vaccines are. If you're vaccinated and boosted,
For 8 weeks.
you have the highest degree of protection. We'll never give up on vaccines.
Don't spread misinformation on this podcast.
It's not,
Now, I know
it's not
President
It is
misinformation.
misinformation.
It's not misinformation.
Show me the facts.
Okay.
Show me
the
they don't
story.
exist.
Yes, they do.
No, they don't.
Google it.
It's not up for debate.
The people you say don't.
Google is not the arbiter of truth.
No, but the people who...
Then why'd you say
We are
it?
also ready with antiviral treatments.
That's
If
actually
you get
good.
COVID-19, the Pfizer pill reduces your chances of ending up in the hospital by 90%. I've ordered more pills than anyone in the world has. Pfizer's working overtime to get us 1 million pills this month and more than double that next month. And now we're launching the Test to Treat initiative. So people can get tested at a pharmacy, and if they prove positive, receive the antiviral pills on the spot at no cost. Folks, if you're If you're immunocompromised or have some other vulnerability, we have treatments and free high-quality masks. We're leaving no one behind or ignoring anyone's needs as we move forward. On testing, we've made hundreds of millions of tests available, and you can order them for free to your doorstep. And we've already ordered free tests. If you already ordered free tests tonight, I'm announcing you can order another group of tests. Go to covidtest.gov starting next week, and you can get more tests. Second, we must prepare for new variants. Over the past, we've gotten much better at detecting new variants. If necessary, we'll be able to develop new vaccines within 100 days instead of maybe months or years. And if Congress provides the funds we need, we'll have new stockpiles of tests, masks, pills ready if needed. I can't promise a new variant won't come, but I can promise you we'll do everything within our power to be ready if it does. Third, we can end the shutdown of schools and businesses. We have the tools we need. It's time for America to get back to work and fill our great downtowns again with people. People working from home can feel safe and begin to return to their offices. We're doing that here in the federal government.
Telework's the
The
future.
vast majority of federal workers will once again work in person. Our
I hope
schools
so,
are
but
open.
I don't think
Let's
so.
keep it that way.
It
Our
should
kids
be.
need to be in school.
We should also have free health care. But we don't.
With 75% of adult Americans fully vaccinated and hospitalizations down by 77%, most Americans
Thanks,
will remove
Omicron.
their masks and stay in the classroom and move forward safely. We achieved this because we provided free vaccines, treatments, tests, and masks. Of course, continuing this costs money, so I'll not surprise you. I'll be back to see you all. And I'm going to soon send a request to Congress. The vast majority of Americans have used these tools and may want again. We may need them again, so I expect Congress, and I hope we'll pass that quickly. Fourth, we'll continue vaccinating the world. We've sent 475 million vaccine doses to 112 countries, more than any nation on earth. We won't stop, because you can't build a wall high enough to keep out a vaccine. The vaccine can stop the spread of these diseases.
That was.
You know, we've lost so
You
much
mentioned
in
disease,
COVID-19.
bud.
Time with one another. Worst of all, much loss of life. Let's use this moment to reset.
Yeah, more deaths under Biden than under
Stop
Trump.
looking at
And he had a
COVID
vaccine the
as
entire time.
part
A lot more infections. A lot
See
more.
it for what it is.
Like
A
18
god-awful
times as many.
disease.
Because of Trump's fucked up.
Lower
Still
death
more
rates.
deaths.
Seeing each other
Lower
as
death
enemies.
No, it's
rates.
because new variants.
Start seeing each other for who we are, fellow Americans. Look,
Yeah, seems relatively bipartisan.
we can't change how divided we've been. It's a long time in coming. But we can change how to move forward on COVID-19 and other issues that we must face together. I recently visited New York City Police Department days after the funerals of Officer Wilbur Mora and his partner, Officer Jason Rivera. They were responding to a 9/11 call when a man shot and killed them with a stolen gun. Officer Moore was 27 years old. Officer Rivera was 22 years old. Both Dominican Americans who grew up in the same streets, but they later chose to patrol as police officers. I spoke with their families, and I told them that we were forever in debt for their sacrifices, and will carry on their mission to restore the trust and safety of every community deserves. Like some of you that have been around for a while, I've worked with you on these issues for a long time. I know what works. Investigating crime prevention and community policing, cops who walk the beat, who know the neighborhood, and who can restore trust and safety. Let's not abandon our streets or choose between safety and equal justice. Let's come together and protect our communities, restore trust, and hold law enforcement accountable. That's why the Justice Department has required body cameras, banned chokeholds, and restricted no-knock warrants for its officers. That's why the American Rescue Plan that you all provided $350 billion that cities, states, and counties can use to hire more police, invest in more proven strategies.
Almost sounds like
This is about to get into trouble with Democrats.
Proven strategies like
I've heard fund the police.
I've heard. I was gonna pretend to be all shocked, but I've heard this before.
proven strategies like community violence interruption, trusted messengers, breaking the cycle of violence and trauma, giving young people some hope. We should all agree the answer is not to defund the police, it's to fund the police.
Son of a bitch.
Fund them.
Who would have thought?
Fund them.
Who would have thought?
Look at all them Republicans stand up.
Yeah.
We'll show the other side.
Fund them with resources and training. Resources and training they need to protect.
I mean, so banning no-knock warrants is a good thing.
I
I
ask
think.
Democrats and Republicans alike to pass my budget and keep our neighborhoods safe. I will do everything in my power to crack down on gun trafficking, of ghost guns that you can buy online, assemble at home, no serial numbers, can't be traced. I ask Congress to pass proven measures to reduce gun violence. Pass universal background checks. Why should anyone on the terrorist list be able to purchase a weapon? Why?
That's a legitimate question, I feel like.
Yeah.
And folks, man, assault weapons with high-capacity magazines hold up 100 rounds. You think the deer are wearing Kevlar vests?
We transitioned really quick from fund the police to gun control.
Manufacturers the only industry in America that can't be sued. The only one.
Vaccine manufacturers.
Imagine had we done that with the tobacco
No, they can be sued.
manufacturers.
They don't have.
These
They don't
laws
have.
Did they change that?
Second
Yeah.
Amendment. They
Can
save
sue 'em now.
lives.
I'm pretty sure. Okay.
The most fundamental
I'll
right
take your word
in
for
America
it.
is the right to vote and have it counted. And look, it's under assault.
No, it's
In
not.
state after state, new laws have been passed. Not only to suppress the vote, we've been there before.
God
but
forbid
to
we require
subvert
voter
the
ID.
Entire election. We can't let this happen.
The Supreme Court of Texas literally kicked out a law because it was
Pass the
racist.
Freedom
That's
to
what they
Vote Act.
said.
Pass the John Lewis Act, Voting Rights Act. And while you're at it, pass the Disclose Act so Americans know who's funding our election. Look, tonight, I like to honor someone who dedicated his life to serve this country. Justice Breyer, an Army
How much time we
veteran,
got left?
constitutional scholar, retiring
50
Justice of the
minutes-ish.
United States Supreme Court. Justice Breyer, thank you for your service. Thank you, thank you.
Is Justice
thank you.
Breyer the one that's retiring?
Yeah, in July.
Mean it.
Yes.
Get up, stand, let them see you. Thank you. And we all know, no matter what your ideology, we all know one of the most serious constitutional responsibility a president has is nominating someone to serve on the United States Supreme Court. As I did 4 days ago, I've nominated the Circuit Court of Appeals, Ketanji Brown Jackson. One of
I wonder
our
how many
nation's
times you
top
rehearsed that
legal
name in the
minds
mirror.
will continue in Justice Breyer's legacy of excellence. Former top litigator in private practice, a former federal public defender, from a family of public school educators and police officers. She's a consensus builder. Since she's been nominated, she's received a broad range of support, including the Fraternal Order of Police and former judges supported by Democrats and Republicans. Folks, if we're to advance liberty and justice, we need to secure our border and fix the immigration system.
His segues are really.
Hey, he just goes.
It's just rough. Yeah.
Are those Dems? I think so.
It's fix immigration
You might
system.
guess, I think we can do both. At our border, we've installed new technologies like cutting-edge scanners to better detect drug smuggling. We've set up joint patrols in Mexico and Guatemala to catch more human traffickers. We're putting in place dedicated immigration judges in significant larger number so families fleeing persecution and violence can have their cases heard faster, and those who don't legitimately hear can be sent back. We're screening, we're securing commitments and supporting partners in South and Central America to host more refugees and secure their own borders. We can do all this while keeping lit the torch of liberty that has led a generation of immigrants to this land, my forebears and many of yours. Provide a pathway to citizenship for dreamers, those with temporary status, farm workers, essential workers. Revise our laws so businesses have workers they need. Families don't wait decades to reunite.
We do need a faster way to become an American citizen. Later, I think.
Shouldn't
That's
take
why the immigration reform is supported by everyone from labor.
And he did say shit people who were not legitimately here back. So.
Let's get
Told you,
it
man,
done
this guy's,
once and for all.
Like, this type of agenda was not a Bernie Sanders agenda.
Bernie Sanders isn't open borders.
Advancing liberty and justice.
Well, I meant just in general. Like, his speech is not a leftist speech. Like, this is a pretty moderate American speech.
Standing precedent for half a century is under attack as never before. If you want to go forward, not backwards, we must protect access to health care, preserve a woman's right to choose, and continue to advance maternal health care for all Americans. Folks, for our LGBTQ plus Americans, let's finally get the Bipartisan Equality Act to my desk. The onslaught of state laws targeting transgender Americans and their families, it's simply wrong.
Is there an onslaught of laws?
Especially to our younger transgender Americans, I'll always have your back as your president so you can be yourself and reach your God-given potential. Folks, as I've just demonstrated,
I guess it depends what kind of laws he means.
We do not agree, and that we do agree on a lot more things than we acknowledge. I signed 80 bipartisan bills in the law last year.
80?
From preventing government shutdowns, protecting aged Americans from still too common hate crimes, to reforming military justice, and will soon be strengthening the Violence Against Women Act that I first wrote 3 decades ago. It's important. It's important for us to show the nation we can come together and do big things. So tonight I'm offering a unity agenda for the nation. 4 big things we can do together, in my view. First, beat the opioid epidemic. There's so much we can do. Increase funding for prevention, treatment, harm reduction, and recovery. Get rid of outdated rules and stop doctors stop doctors prescribing treatments. Stop the flow of illicit drugs by working with state and local law enforcement to go after the traffickers. And if you're suffering from addiction, you should know you're not alone. I believe in recovery, and I celebrate the 23 million Americans in recovery.
Well, with someone like Hunter
Second,
Biden, you kind of have to believe in recovery.
let's take on mental health, especially among our children whose lives and education have been turned upside down. The American Rescue Plan gave schools money to hire teachers and help students make up for lost learning. I urge every parent to make sure your school does just that. They have the money. We can all play a part. Sign up to be a tutor or a mentor. Children were also struggling before the pandemic. Bullying, violence, trauma, and the harms of social media. As Frances Haugen, who is here tonight with us, has shown, we must hold social media platforms accountable for the national experiment they're conducting on our children for profit.
I mean, if you haven't seen our Social Dilemma podcast, like...
Folks, thank you.
I wonder what shape that accountability
Thank you for the courage
takes,
you
though.
showed. It's time to strengthen privacy protections. Ban targeted advertising to children. Demand tech companies stop collecting personal data on our children. And let's get all Americans the mental health services they need.
I think he introduced a bill that made microtransaction, like in gambling games, illegal.
If we treat it that way in our insurance.
See, that was like it went straight from the data consumption to mental health.
Is support our veterans.
What are you talking about, kids?
Veterans are the backbone and the spine of this country. They're the best of us. I've always believed
His volume's like an action movie. It's really quiet or really loud, too.
And care for those in their family when they come home. My administration providing assistance in job training, housing, and now helping lower-income veterans get VA care debt-free. And our troops in Iraq and Afghanistan face many dangers. One being stationed at bases breathing in toxic smoke from burn pits. Many of you have been there. I've been in and out of Iraq and Afghanistan over 40 times. These burn pits that incinerate waste,
Pelosi
waste
seems
of
way too
war,
excited.
medical and hazardous material, jet fuel, and so much more. And they come home. Many of the world's fittest and best trained warriors in the world. Never the same. Headaches, numbness, dizziness. A cancer that would put them in a flag-draped coffin. I know.
Ooh,
One
did y'all
of
hear
those,
that?
one of
13.
those soldiers was my son, Major Bobite. I don't know for sure if the burn pit that he lived near, that his hooch was near, in Iraq, and earlier than that, Kosovo, was the cause of his brain cancer, the disease of so many other troops. But I am committed to find out everything we can, committed to military families like Danielle Robinson from Ohio, the widow of Sergeant First Class Heath Robinson. He was born a soldier, Army National Guard, combat medic in Kosovo and Iraq, stationed near Baghdad, just yards from burn pits the size of football fields. Danielle is here with us tonight. They love going to Ohio State football games.
Is she really short or sitting down?
I can't tell. I think she's sitting.
No, she's standing up.
Oh, she's just on a lower level. Okay. So the glare on the screen, I was like,
Legos with their daughter. Cancer from prolonged exposure to burn pits ravaged Heath's lungs and body. Danielle says Heath was a fighter to the very end. He didn't know how to stop fighting, and neither did she. Through her pain, she found purpose to demand that we do better. Tonight, Danielle, we are going to do better. The VA
needs
is
improvement.
acquiring new ways of linking
Like-
toxic exposure to disease, already helping more veterans get benefits. And tonight, I'm announcing we're expanding eligibility to veterans suffering from 9 respiratory cancers. I'm also calling on Congress to pass a law to make sure veterans devastated by toxic exposure in Iraq and Afghanistan finally get the benefits of the comprehensive health care they
a
deserve.
little early there too, Pelosi. She's a couple lines ahead of the teleprompter.
And fourth and last, let's end cancer as we know it. This is personal.
I mean, that's good, but not.
Realistic.
Yeah. Like, I'm all for we're going to fund more cancer research, great. But
This
I'm
is
not going to hold my
personal
breath
to me,
for.
Jill, and to Kamala. So many of you have lost someone you love. Husband, wife, son, daughter, mom, dad. Cancer is the number 2 cause of death in America, second only to heart disease. Last month, I announced the plan to supercharge the cancer moonshot that President Obama asked me to lead 6 years ago. Our goal is to cut cancer death rates by at least 50% over the next 25 years. I think we can do better than that. Turn cancers from death sentences into treatable diseases. More support for patients and their families. To get there, I call on Congress to fund what I call ARPA-H, Advanced Research Projects Agency for Health, patterned after DARPA and the Defense Department. Projects that led in DARPA to the internet, GPS, and so much more to make our forces more safer and be able to wage war with more clarity.
Oof.
ARPA will have a singular purpose: to drive breakthroughs in cancer, Alzheimer's and diabetes, and more. A unity agenda for the nation. We can do these things. It's within our power. And I don't see a partisan edge to any one of those four things.
Well, we're going to find it. Don't you worry, buddy.
Tonight,
They hate progress.
we've gathered in
I
this
didn't
sacred
mean we
space,
conservatives,
the
asshat.
citadel of democracy.
I mean,
This capital.
practically.
Generation after generation of Americans have debated great questions, made great strife, and have done great things. We fought for freedom, expanded liberty, debated totalitarianism and terror. We built the strongest, freest, and most prosperous nation the world has ever known. Now is the hour, our moment of responsibility, our test of resolve and conscience, of history itself. It is in this moment that our character of this generation is formed. Our purpose is found. Our future is forged. Well, I know this nation. We'll meet the test, protect freedom and liberty, expand fairness and opportunity, and we will save democracy. As hard as those times have been, I'm more optimistic about America today than I've been my whole life, because I see the future that's within our grasp, because I know there's simply nothing beyond our capacity. We're the only nation on earth that has always turned every crisis we faced into an opportunity. The only nation that can be defined by a single word: possibilities. So on this night, on our 245th year as a nation, I've come to report on the state of the nation, the state of the union. And my report is this: the state of the union is strong because you, the American people, are strong. We are stronger today. We are stronger today than we were a year ago. And we'll be stronger a year from now than we are today. This is our moment to meet and overcome the challenges of our time. And we will, as one people, one America, the United States of America. God bless you all, and may God protect our troops. Thank you. Go get him.
All right, so what do we think?
Does anyone remember his four, like all of them?
For what?
Like there's four, the things he wanted to do, like the end of his speech. So there's cancer research.
I don't remember. I just watched it.
I know. That's disappointing. What'd you think, Wyatt?
I don't know that I've ever seen in any State of the Union I've seen. I guess I've only seen like 3 presidents do one. I've never seen that much like applause from the entire room. Like typically, like only like the troops get that kind of applause. Really, that's about it.
Talking like bipartisan applause.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, for sure not in Trump's last 2. So.
Yeah.
Who knows? What did you think about the topics?
That wasn't bad.
Alright, so like the gaffes are kind of baked into the cake at this point. Like, it's just Biden. That's just what he does. You know, the stuttering and stuff. And he's clearly an old man talking, but I'm waiting to see some of the bills that he mentioned. I haven't heard anything on, which may just be because they're not in the spotlight at the moment. You know?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what kind of bills he's talking about that are targeting trans people, unless he's talking about the ones that are delineating sports. So I know there's a few of those going on in states where, like, you can't be trans female and do female sports.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, I could be wrong. Don't quote me on it. Those are the only ones I'm aware of.
I will say on most of his economic stuff, it does kind of suck. In the sense that he's not going to get. By the time they come to fruition, it's not. He'll be out of office. So, like the infrastructure plan, like they started. Most of them started like December, January. Like they have just now started. They're not going to get finished for another probably 9-10 years. And we're not going to know the effects that they have during his presidency. But I think that's what made him so awesome. Because anyone else would have probably taken the budget and probably done anything else.
Yeah, infrastructure is not a real selling point to most people.
Yeah.
I don't think that redoing roads and bridges and whatnot is not going to prepare America for the future of manufacturing or anything like that. Yeah, I think that's a total fiction. But
why is that?
Because I don't think that's what we need to be investing into if we want to compete. Like, so if we want to compete, we need more companies like that Intel thing he was talking about.
That's infrastructure, buddy.
Not the roads and bridges he was talking about.
You need roads.
That was totally different.
But you need, like, plants. You know what I'm saying? Like, you need, like, manufacturing facilities.
I guess I wouldn't call that infrastructure, but...
Okay.
Okay, so I guess it would be manufacturing infrastructure, but that's not what was passed in the infrastructure bill.
No.
No, he's trying to get.
Like, and I'm all for that R&D funding. Like, we do need to put more of our money into R&D. Like, that just needs to be a staple in the American budget is R&D development, in like all fields, like cancer research, war, the weapons, everything needs to have an R&D budget, because otherwise you're just falling behind.
Yeah.
I did like his veterans, getting them the benefits they need, because it's basically like Agent Orange in Vietnam, where we're basically putting chemicals in these soldiers' bodies, and they get home and it's killing them.
So that's not exactly the same thing, because the burn pits weren't our burn pits. It was like local government's burn pits that was putting off chemicals. Like, we shouldn't have stationed bases.
I was gonna say you shouldn't have stationed.
But like Agent Orange was like, we were dropping Agent Orange. And,
yeah.
This is not our doing.
Mm-hmm.
But I think I'm all on board for the VA needing. Like, I mean, the VA is a shit show. Like, anyone I've ever talked to who's experienced what the VA healthcare looks like, it's fucking crap.
Yeah.
So we definitely need something better there. I want to see what form this all takes. Because it's easy to make it all sound flowery during your State of the Union, and then you get the actual bill that's going to do it, and there's a whole bunch of bullshit in it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like, I'll take the tech company one, for example. So if we tell tech companies, like, hey, you can't host the data of your users, there's a certain group of this country that's not going to like that, because the government does stuff, and they're going to have to police that, and they're not going to like that.
So we definitely, like, Americans' private data should be their private data. It shouldn't be monetized by these companies, because what it does is, like, Facebook takes all of your data and then sells it to like Amazon or to other corporations. That's why, like, if you talk about something,
God forbid another country,
right? And they definitely do sell it to other countries too. But like, so that's why, like, on Facebook, if you Google something like you're interested in buying, and then all of a sudden all of your Facebook ads are for that, like, they're selling that data so they know to target you with advertising, and it's not. That's the most benign use of that information, is targeted advertising. There's a lot more malicious shit that gets done with your data, and that needs to be stopped.
The idea with social media, though, especially with, like, kids, I mean, nobody, like, really in Congress has talked about it, but I've heard the idea before about banning social media for kids, and that's everything. That's YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Twitter, everything.
Yeah. I could probably get on board with that, though. Like, kids aren't gonna like it, but I'm pretty here for it. Like, again, if you haven't watched our Social Dilemma podcast, it was like one of the first ones we did. But the correlations between social media and suicide rates and shit like that, like cyberbullying, it's all fucking crazy.
That, or we can just regulate the hell out of the social media.
Yeah. Which I still don't... There are still Republicans that fight that, and I don't understand. Like, no, stop. Social media needs some regulation. Like, we gotta get... something's got to change here, like, because it's not working out.
What are you yelling at me for?
You woke him up.
He said the word change.
He doesn't believe it.
Yeah, I do.
You don't believe it?
Any other notable? I mean, so support for Ukraine's good. Like I said, I would like to see how that $1 billion breaks down. Not that it matters, but because they need humanitarian aid, they also need war aid.
Military aid. Well, we've given them a bunch of weapons, but I guess this was before, or no, this is after the invasion. After the invasion, we've given them a lot of weapons.
Well, I think Blinken was saying something about 350 million more. I don't know if that's included in the billion, but 350 million more in like Stingers and Javelins and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Anti-aircraft and anti-tank.
Nick, what'd you think? What'd you think?
I thought it was decent. I liked the Ukrainian speech. I did like again, trying to help the veterans out. I did not like how he used a kid in his thing. I don't think politicians should hide behind kids. I think it tugs on the heartstrings too much.
No, that's fair. And people do that.
So it's not what he said. It's
how he did it.
Yeah, okay, I got you.
Like, I agree
don't pull the emotional blackmail.
I agree that insulin's way too high. It needs to be capped at a certain, whatever it is, not what it is now. Jesus Christ. But I don't think we should use like Greta Thunberg when she did her whole climate thing. I think it was stupid. She was clearly just a political pawn that they knew they could manipulate and use for sympathy. I hate it. I hate when people use kids.
Yeah.
Like,
if you had to give this speech a grade, what would you give it?
C plus.
I mean, so ignoring the gaffes, probably a B.
No, even with the gaps, meh. Like the gaps, I don't even care about. But I'd give him a B minus.
It's like, so, yeah, it's not bad. Most State of the Unions are pretty
good.
okay.
Yeah, most of them are good.
Because it's not a debate stage, like,
yeah.
You're just up there presenting your ideas in the best format that you can present them.
Yeah,
With no
typically,
pushback.
The one thing that's different about this debate is, so like he pointed, or not the debate, the State of the Union, so typically like they point at them and these people just like with, it's usually like Nick said, kids with like big puffy eyes that are watery and they're like, thank you so much Mr. President, sir, for doing what you did. And we only saw that a couple of times.
I didn't see any of them. Like even the Ukrainian lady was like, hey, thanks for having me, but really could use more arms. Like all of them seemed.
The Ukrainian lady was crying.
Was she?
Yeah, when he first introduced her, she was kind of tearing up.
No, I didn't see that, but
Okay.
they may have had different camera angles on different
networks. And
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah. Okay.
One was more zoomed in on.
Well, let us know what you thought in the comments.
Yes.
Good State of the Union, bad State of the Union. What do you think about all the policies that are coming down the pipe?
Yep.
And what do you think the real problems are in America?
I like how he didn't talk about any of the union.
Like the current... Well, he's talked about inflation a little bit. He talked about...
He didn't go...
Well, I didn't know if he was going to address inflation. But, I mean, taps onto him, he did. And he gave the real solution, which is long-term inflation. Like, there is no way... You can't go back on inflation in a year. That's just not going to happen. And even if you did, that's probably not the way to do it.
I mean, you would have to... Like, the only way I could see to do that is to drastically increase at-home manufacturing. And I mean, like, you'd have to do it overnight, which just isn't feasible.
Yeah.
Like, you'd have to build so many different manufacturing plants for so many different items in a month.
Yeah.
That it's just not...
You have to cut a lot of corners.
Yeah.
In a world of OSHA violations.
But...
All right. Is that about it?
Yeah, I think that's about it. So, like I said, fill us in the comments with what you thought.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.